we mentioned Deshaun Watson, and we need to pivot now to the latest developments in this ever-growing list of lawsuits filed against him by women who claim misconduct within the confines of massages. And the numbers are getting larger and larger. They're up to 12. Tony Buzbee had a press conference today. He's got 10 more on top of the 12 who are potentially going to be filing suit. Let's listen to some of the highlights from Buzbee's press conference today, and then we will analyze what he had to say on the other side.
We are now representing 12 women, and we will file the remaining cases, the additional 5 cases, in due course as we do our due diligence. You should also know that we've also spoken to more than 10 additional women. So more than 22 women that we've spoken to who have reported conduct similar to that laid out in our public filings. You should know that at least one of these women was referred to Deshaun Watson by the Texans organization. As recent as last week, the quarterback coach, Quincy Avery, referred Deshaun Watson to one of my clients. The case ain't about money, and it's certainly not about seeking publicity or fame. I personally don't need it, and these women don't want it. This case is about female empowerment, taking the power back, and I need to dispel some silly rumors. Yes, I live on River Oaks Boulevard, and I live near the McNair family. I don't know the McNair family. I wouldn't recognize Cal or Hal or whatever his name is if I saw him on the street. This case has nothing to do with the Texans, has nothing to do with free agency, the timing. I don't know anything about that silliness, and I frankly don't care about it. Texans are not a team that I follow. This case is instead about women, brave women who are willing to step forward, knowing that they will be criticized and ostracized. And we should all get behind them, applaud them for their bravery, and support them.
So at least 22 individuals who have contacted Tony Buzbee, and Buzbee has been very aggressive in soliciting these types of cases. It's been a long time since I practiced law. There are certain lines that you're not supposed to cross when it comes to solicitation of clients. There are certain things you're not supposed to do. There are plenty of lawyers who nevertheless do those things. I assume since he did it so publicly, he's within the confines of whatever the Texas Bar Association allows, Shireen. But I feel like it's gotten to the point where he has become so identified with this that for some of these individuals, they may be better off with other lawyers. It may be time for someone else to get involved and handle these cases, because Buzbee, I think, is becoming such a major driving force in this, such a major personality in this. When he says it's not about money, it's not about fame or publicity, while he's doing a press conference. Let me call a press conference for publicity so I can say this isn't about publicity. Are you kidding me? If it's not about publicity, quit putting things on social media and don't call a press conference. So, look, I made this point earlier today when it was only 7. With each additional individual, it becomes harder to believe that it's all one big accident, that it's all one big embellishment, that it's all one big fabrication. The numbers eventually overwhelm any alternative explanation. Then there is predatory behavior that is happening. But you undermine your clients when your lawyer is acting like a carnival barker. And he can deny it all he wants, Shireen, but Tony Buzbee is acting like a carnival barker, and that could hurt the efforts of his clients to get the justice they deserve.
Yeah, no question, Mike, and completely agree with it. I just said the same thing earlier, with just the numbers adding up. I mean, we've seen some of these cases with other people in other places, in other fields, and the numbers just get to a point where you're going, all of these women can't be lying. We don't know exactly what happened, but we'll see how this plays out. I did note in the press conference he talked about the Houston Police Department is now investigating this, looking at criminal charges if if the investigation leads that way. That's one thing, Mike. And the other is, Deshaun Watson has retained Rusty Hardin, who hasn't said a lot, but he's one of the biggest, most well-known lawyers in Houston and perhaps in the country. He's defended people like Roger Clemens and Warren Moon and Adrian Peterson. So he knows how these things work. But agree with you, if there's more women out there, they may look a different direction and go to a different lawyer and handle it that way, as opposed to Tony Buzbee, who obviously has sought publicity out of this. I mean, he's talked, he's held press conferences, he's done all of that stuff.
These lawsuits all say that they are seeking minimum jurisdictional amounts. Well, it's written in a way to create the impression that it's not about money. But then when you get to the last page of the lawsuit, you see the stack of items of compensation and punitive damages that are being sought. So don't fall for the idea that it's not about money. And that's okay. It's allowed to be about money. That's how certain grievances are addressed. That's how justice is meted out. That's the whole purpose of the civil justice system. Someone does something to you that is wrong, and you get compensation for it, for your financial losses, for the injury to your overall mental well-being. There's a value that's placed on that. Just like pain and suffering, if you're in a car accident, you get compensated for your hospital bills, for your pain and suffering. That's how it works. That's the system. So don't act like the system isn't what it is. Tony Busby, and if you look through his Instagram page, that big house and that swimming pool and that Bentley at the airport, those are all paid for by the money that he's earned on behalf of his clients. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's the American way. There are plenty of lawyers out there who have made good livings for themselves handling cases like this. Just don't give me that BS. It's not about the money. Of course it's about the money, because that's how you level the playing field between the powerful and the powerless. You just don't give them a stern talking to. You make them pay. That is what teaches them a lesson and teaches everyone else out there. There's a societal benefit to this, that you can't get away with this if Deshaun Watson is guilty. And the message to anyone else out there who's either doing this stuff, thinking about doing it, thinking they've gotten away with it, the message is there are people out there who will hold you accountable. So I'm conflicted as it relates to Tony Buzbee, because he is serving a valuable purpose. The civil justice system is there to give the people who don't have power the opportunity to speak the ultimate truth to power. And that truth is, you will be forking over some of your money for what you did to me. So I support that. I used to do that for a living, but I don't respect the way he's doing it. That's the needle I'm trying to thread here, Shireen.
Yeah, and Mike, you pointed out this yesterday too, and I think it's an important part of this, is Deshaun Watson put himself in these situations. So a lesson to other athletes: if you put yourself in this situation, have somebody with you, have your wife there, have your girlfriend there, videotape it, whatever, but have some evidence that nothing happened while you were getting this massage, that anyone could come back and say something did happen. Cover yourself in all situations, Mike. And I think that's an important part that other players, other athletes can take out of this.
See, on one hand, and this is another area where I'm conflicted, and I'm trying to respect the rights of the individuals. We don't know their names, and we may never know their names until these cases go to trial, because they're all exercising their right to file under the Jane Doe pseudonym. You balance their rights against Deshaun's rights. He's got rights too. But, you know, from his perspective, the easy response is, the massage is an inherently intimate act, and there are certain things that could happen during the confines of the massage that just happen. That doesn't mean it's assault. Okay, fine. That's fine. You have the right to try to prove that. But when I look at it, you take a step back, it's like this is if you're a predator, this is the perfect environment to try to be a predator and have the ability to say, it's just a massage. I wasn't doing anything. It's just a massage. I'm sorry if you're uncomfortable. It's just a massage. So this is a tough one. But the problem is, with each additional person, with each additional lawsuit, it was an accident. It was a misunderstanding. It wasn't assault. It wasn't deliberate. It wasn't predatory. It becomes harder and harder to sell that. That's the problem, Shireen, that Deshaun Watson has.
And doesn't it make it harder, Mike, for these to go away, to pay these off? I mean, if there's 22, 23 of these, are you going to pay off 22, 23 people? Are you going to settle with them? That's an awful lot of money to pay these people, Mike.
Here's what I think happened. I don't know this, but what I think happened was the initial person approached Tony Buzbee. Busby approached Deshaun Watson's agent, or if they had Rusty Hardin involved, whoever, and they had these pre-lawsuit negotiations. Deshaun Watson acknowledged that himself in the tweet that surfaced on Tuesday night. That's how I first even became aware of it. Before I even saw the first lawsuit, Deshaun self-publicized the incident and talked about efforts to settle the case, and he wasn't going to pay a six-figure settlement, and the lawyer says it's not about money. Well, I mean, Deshaun, you and your agent and lawyer should know that that's baloney, and it is about money. But when my guess is somebody pissed off Tony Buzbee, and that's when he threw the door open to solicit more clients. And it just so happened it was an avalanche. And all these people reaching out, and here we go. We've got 22 now. So, look, if Deshaun is guilty of this behavior, he deserves everything that comes along with it. If he's not guilty of it, this is a stupidity tax for putting yourself in the position, but it's going to be harder and harder for the court of public opinion. Two courts of law. Well, two courts, court of law, court of public opinion. It's going to be harder and harder for the people in the court of public opinion to think that this is all one big accident or misunderstanding. And it's just amazing how quickly someone's reputation can be forever changed, especially when 3 days ago, if we were making a list of the last people in the NFL that we thought would be accused of something like this, if there was a list of 5 people that we would have made 3 days ago, I guarantee you one of the names on that list would have been Deshaun Watson. At least for me, it would have been.
I think he probably would have been one of the 5 for me. No question about it, Mike. And you wouldn't have ever identified him with something like this. But yet, here we are. And, teams are going to have to take a step back now. If the Texans are really, truly interested in trading him, they're going to want to know more about this before there's any kind of trade toss. Before you're giving up that much compensation for somebody, you want to know how this thing's going to play out.
And it's entirely possible that Deshaun Watson did things he shouldn't have done and will face justice eventually for it. And Tony Buzbee is carnival barker, snake oil salesman that just happened to be, in this case, selling something that isn't snake oil, that he kind of got lucky and fell into meritorious cases. And I'm not saying he handles frivolous cases. I'm just saying the way he's conducting this troubles me, but it's entirely possible all 22 of his clients are telling the complete and total truth and ultimately will prevail in litigation against Deshaun Watson. The thing that bugs me the most about Buzbee, because look, when you practice law, you're trained to constantly spot behaviors, comments, facial expressions, anything that would make you think something is amiss. And when this issue comes up of potential collusion with the Texans, and Tony Buzbee, based upon the clip we played, it looked like he raised it himself. He wasn't asked that question. He raised it himself. Silly rumors. Yes, I live near the McNairs. When he says, I don't know Cal or Hal or whatever his name is, that does not pass through my BS detector. Everyone in Houston knows who Cal McNair is. When you try to downplay it by saying Cal or Hal or whatever his name is, that tells me you're trying to hide something. That tells me that there is a connection. And that this is just my opinion based upon what he said. But Shireen, didn't that strike you as odd for him to say Cal or Hal or whatever his name is? Is there any doubt that his name is Cal McNair if you live in Houston?
Everyone in Houston grew up down there. Everyone in Houston knows who Tony Buzbee is. Everyone in Houston knows who Cal McNair is. Everyone in Houston knows who Rusty Hardin is. They know the principal players in this. I guarantee you Tony Buzbee knows Cal McNair. They run in the same circles. They live in the same neighborhood. There is no question they know each other. So, yes, that does not pass the test for me.
And this idea that he doesn't follow the team, I don't know what team he's a fan of, but he has on his Instagram feed, January of this year, it's been 7 years since he posted a billboard to get his friend and neighbor, Mr. McNair, presumably Bob McNair, to draft who, Shireen? Who did he want him to draft? Do you remember?
Johnny Manziel.
That's
Johnny
right.
Manziel. He went to A&M just like Johnny did.
Yeah, so you can't say you don't follow the Texans when you just hyped 2 months ago a billboard you purchased 7 years ago to get the local football team to draft Johnny Manziel. So, again, this is difficult, but these things aren't mutually exclusive. It's possible that Tony Buzbee is not telling us the whole truth and nothing but the truth about his motivations and what he knows and whether or not there may be some collusion there. And let me tell you, if I'm the NFL, I'm very curious after hearing Tony Buzbee today to wonder whether or not this fuse was lit in some way by the Texans. I'd want to explore that if I was the league, but it's still entirely possible that Deshaun Watson is guilty of 22 instances of assault. So a difficult situation for everyone involved. And as we cover the NFL, when these stories come up, we don't go looking for them. They come our way, and it's not within our purview to ignore them. We have to flesh them out, and we have to inform people, and we have to analyze them. And obviously, this is something we'll be following for weeks, months, maybe years to come, depending upon how long it takes the legal system to process these cases, and also the NFL now actively investigating these cases. And at a certain point, and the NFL's personal conduct policy, in my mind, Shireen, is driven by PR. At a certain point, this becomes so significant that you're going to see the league put Deshaun Watson on the commissioner exempt list. So whoever has him on the roster is going to end up paying him to not play. I have a feeling that's where it's going to end up at some point before football season begins.
It's all about PR for the league, Mike, and they do these things on a PR basis, and we've seen the stories, right? I don't know how many you've written, Mike, but there have been a bunch of stories over the last 2 or 3 days on this, and they keep coming one after another. So that's not a good look for the NFL. So, yeah, at some point they address this from a PR standpoint.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.